Hey everybody, welcome back to another movie review. Hope you guys been enjoying the content channel as of late. Hope you guys like this new angle I'm trying out. I just took the camera out for the weekend, did some filming and stuff like that. So stay tuned. I might just talk about something in the near future. So stay tuned. But I hope you guys like this new little angle. Just kind of put the camera here and thought it was the right framing, but turns out it's not. But I kind of like this. This kind of looks kind of different. So let me know what you guys think. But we are back with another movie review. Just got back from the theater from seeing this, and I'm going to try to make this a little quick just because I have dinner literally waiting for me. So let's try to get this one in the can, as they say. So, the film we're going to be discussing today is Friendship. This was written and directed by Andrew DeYoung in his directorial debut. This stars Tim Robinson, Kate Mara, Jack Dylan Grazer, and Paul Rudd. Story follows that of a guy named Craig, who is played by Tim Robinson. And when we meet him, he is very removed socially. He has a very hard time connecting with people, and he is also facing issues within his own relationship with Kate Mara's character, who is secretly seems to be cheating. And amidst all this, in his just obliviousness to all of it, he's very blind to all that, he meets his neighbor, who is new to the neighborhood, that being Paul Rudd's character, and they strike up something of a bond for a little bit, and eventually he invites Paul Rudd invites Tim Robinson's character over for a party, and things don't go as planned, and from that their relationship fizzles out very quickly, and what we see follow from this is a exploration of someone's innate detachments from the social landscape, and within that, this very narcissistic person that is buried underneath, and the spiraling of this person's mentality and the further rising of their narcissism. And the film explores this in a very I'd say, at least to my viewing, in a very sharp manner, where they portray events in certain ways, and then in other sequences they will denounce those depictions, and it further illustrates that of this person's narcissism, where he only hears what he wants to hear, and many other times he will just choose to not hear information, and it becomes rather that of gags throughout the film to kind of highlight some form of humor. And there's points where the character Tim Robinson specifically we're talking about here will forget information that his wife brings up, like the fact that he hangs out with a guy named Devin. He keeps forgetting the guy's name. He will forget that Paul Rudd, or that he'll project the idea that Paul Rudd didn't have a phone, and then Paul Rudd's character will say later on that he does have a phone. Little things like these, little nuggets, are meant to give you an illustration of how the film is painting this specific character, and through that, it's thematic study, which is that about narcissism and about someone's blatant distance socially and his own problems in finding those connections and fostering in genuine relationships. And I feel like sometimes that illustration can be a bit heavy-handed. As the film starts out, it's pretty obvious to me that it's going to be about some form of ignorance. But as the film goes on, you realize that it's actually more than that, and it actually has to do more in the line of narcissism, because key difference between that of ignorance and narcissism is that someone who is ignorant can potentially make the changes. With someone who is narcissistic, they are without making those changes. They are very content with how they see things and what they ultimately literally will see or hear. They do not think about the other person's well-being. They don't think about their how they're projecting onto other people. They don't consider those things. They just consider only themselves. And what the film does very well in this overall in these depictions of these ideas is to marry it within two forms of tones, mainly that of obviously its humorous elements. The idea of knowing that this guy is never going to understand things, and he always forgets things, or always doesn't have the clear picture. In that, there is a form of humor that is discovered, and you're finding yourself laughing at these points because as the film starts, you do feel some line of sympathy, but as time goes on, you realize that there is actually a lot there to laugh at with a specific person when he himself is in fact the problem. And through that, the idea again of narcissism, there also is this fairly horrific expression that takes place because of the fact that the film depicts that of his mindset and reality itself. When it comes time for the film to present reality at some points, there are points where it does genuinely feel horrifying because of how crazed the guy actually is. I mean, literally by the end of the film, there's a point of which where I just felt really unsettled because of just how, number one, the performances are doing. I mean, Tim Robinson, I think, does a good job balancing between that of humor and that of this kind of just this line of uncertainty within his character. I think that he plays those plays those two ideas very well. But for another, I think that the craftsmanship also lends itself to having that self-awareness within such blindness. It's not a film that just is the sum of its parts, where it's just showing you a man who is just oblivious to everything. It's a film that plays on both sides, very mirrored effect, where it shows you his mindset and then from the outside source. And in that, as I said, the way I put it, it's self-awareness within that of blindness, at least by how it's crafted. And it's involving, it's informative, it's a lot of fun. I found myself just having a good time with it. And you get good performances there. I think that some of the issues, like I said, stem from sometimes its visual ideals, like just visually how it depicts things. I feel that sometimes it could be a bit heavy-handed. And by the framing of the character, of this very narcissistic type of character, as time goes on, your attachments to that protagonist do become more faded. They do become more thin. And that might indeed be the very point, but at the same time, it would, if there needs to be some sort of, if the film wants us to find sympathy within the character, it just becomes less and less as time goes on. But I don't feel that that's entirely the point. But by the point of which it is actually trying to make, I think it lands fairly well. There's great humor, there's great points of disturbance, and it finds a nice in between to create something rather unique and just fun. It's just a good time, and it definitely finds solid grounds within its performances, within its aesthetic, without how it represents itself, by its edits, by how it just cuts in, like certain points with how they play with music. I feel like also kind of is very interesting, just how it plays to the character's mindset at points where he's like calm and then he's angry. They'll like rock and roll type, that portrays his anger, and other points, of certain music, it'll just show him his calm sides. Like stuff like that, I feel is also is interesting, but generally, I think it's a really good piece. I think that there's a lot of good stuff there, and I think a lot of it stems from how it is crafted, and that marriage between that of humor and that of horror. Because I wouldn't put it past you if you thought this was a horror film to some extent, because it definitely has those undertones and definitely breathes those sort of, presents such elements, at least those sort of feelings. That's in the vein of like psychological horror, But it's a very good piece, and I had a very good time with it. My theater, definitely, I heard a lot of laughs in the theater. So yeah, I think it was a very good time, and a good time that was involving and informative, and not just that of some mindless endeavor. Like I said, it's self-awareness within blindness, and that makes it more, in my opinion, than the sum of its parts. And I'm glad that it is approaching itself in that way and not leading itself within a form of blindness. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on Friendship. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was very good, and I've just found myself really involved with its storytelling. you guys know your thoughts on Friendship if you guys have seen it. I'm not sure if it's going to be in theaters for long, at least around this area. It seems like it's going to be going away soon. So if you guys are interested, please check it out. I think it's an interesting piece. And if you guys have seen it, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.